Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
I'm Chris Stachiw.
And I'm Sean Liang.
And man, what a weirdly, oddly topical film we're going to be talking about today, Sean.
Yeah, I'll say.
In keeping with Mockumentary March, we're going to be talking about Death of a President today from 2006. You've probably never heard of it. That's okay. Before we get to talking about that film, Sean, have you been watching anything this week?
You're going to laugh at me.
Oh, God, Walking Dead again?
No. Actually, that reminds me, I have an episode to watch. Thank you. But no, I watched Pee Wee Herman's Big Holiday, and it's a Netflix original that just came out on Friday. And let me tell you first that I used to, literally when I was a kid, growing up, I used to hate Pee Wee Herman. It used to scare me to all, like just the moving furniture, the talking furniture. It all creeped me out.
You don't like Cherry?
Oh, is that what his name is, Cherry?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man, that stuff scared me. I don't know. I was a little... It was mostly Pee Wee Herman that scared me himself.
Understand.
And then I also grew up hearing about him being arrested for jerking off in a porno theater, so that always tainted my view on Pee Wee Herman. However, I watched this movie, and I pissed my pants laughing. I don't know.
You loved it.
I loved it, man. I loved it, and I didn't know... Part of it also has to do with the fact that it's like my fantasy about falling in love with Joe Manganiello. It's very...
I thought you were going to say your fantasy of falling in love with Pee Wee Herman.
No. But it was so funny. I found it hysterical. I mean, this doesn't ruin anything, but like there's a scene where he blows up a giant balloon and squeaks it the whole way out. And it's like it goes on way too long, but I laughed my ass off the whole time. So I recommend this movie. It's quite funny.
It sounds... Everything I've been reading about it, it sounds just like, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure from back in the day.
Yeah, it seems almost a little more self-aware this time. It made some really good jokes that I enjoyed as a 25-year-old. So I was impressed. I haven't laughed that hard in a while, like a stupid kid. It was so fun.
I love Pee Wee Herman. I have a Pee Wee Herman doll from like the late 80s, early 90s sitting on my shelf in my office. Yeah. That was a graduation gift from a friend of mine.
Amazing.
So I haven't watched it. I didn't even realize it was out until this morning when I was just kind of perusing through Netflix looking for something to watch. So I didn't even realize that it was out yet. So as soon as I get a chance, I'm gonna watch it because it looked It looked okay. The previews I saw, it didn't make me like super excited, but
Yeah.
I mean, like
Me
you
neither,
like you
man.
said, it is Pee Wee Herman, so
Exactly. And I have seen Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, even as an adult, and I've seen it. But I think this one's funnier. I think it's like, I don't know, maybe that's just me as a millennial saying that. But I think that it's pretty funny. And I don't know, I recommend it. It's definitely, once you see it, you'll know what I mean. I just can't wait for you to see this movie to understand.
no, like I said, it's on my list of, it's definitely on my list of things to watch.
Yeah.
So, oh, is that it? Just Pee Wee Herman?
That's really the only new thing I've watched recently. Yeah.
Let's see. What have I been watching? Well, I finally wrapped up How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and I'm not going to ruin the show for anybody, but the ending of the show is very divisive for the fans. And I completely understand why.
Yeah.
Do I think the fans of the show kind of overreacted? Yeah, I do. But you know, since when have fans ever overreacted to anything, right? I say
Right.
that as I roll my eyes.
Exactly.
And you know, really on top of that, when was the last time a TV show ever ended the way you wanted it to anyways?
Right.
So,
I mean, isn't that part of the fun?
What, of TV shows just like ending poorly?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
you know, TV shows never end on that really satisfying note that everybody wants. Like, I don't know where people get the idea that TV shows ever end on that really high note.
well, especially when it's like a concept that's like, it's such a high like Lost, like there was such a high concept, like a one secret that was so specific that went on for so long that it wasn't possible to be one satisfying ending, you know?
Right. Well, and I felt kind of the same way with How I Met Your Mother because, you know, the entire conceit of the fucking show is, you know, it's about how this main character met his wife.
Right.
But it's not about that. Like that's the setup, but that has nothing to do with 3/4 of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I actually haven't seen it. And I only know like random spoilers that apparently are huge.
Well,
but I don't know.
But the whole show is about like how he met the mother, but it's not really about that because she doesn't show up until like the last season of the show.
Right.
So like that's kind of the whole problem I have with people getting upset about the show is like the way the show was set up. If you were expecting something else, I understand being upset, but at the same time, like the show, you know, hasn't really done anything differently for 9 seasons. So, have I watched anything else? Have I? I feel like, I've been watching Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yeah, you know, I've been enjoying it. You know, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, those are like the two big ones, right? Like,
yeah, that's true.
I have been enjoying Game of Thrones way more than I did the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I watched all the way through the first season of the show. It was all right, you know. And then watching it now, you know, getting into the second season and kind of seeing where these characters are going. I've been really enjoying it, which is surprising because of how much I really didn't like it the first time I watched it.
See, and that's how I feel. Because I've tried watching it, but I also had roommates who like would zoom through it, and I would only be able to catch up so much. So eventually, I kind of like lost track. So I kind of want to give it a fair chance. Now that you're saying this, it makes me definitely want to.
Well, and you know what? It's a slow fucking show. Like it's a very slow moving show.
Yeah.
You know, essentially, it kind of every season builds up to like the last 2 episodes, and that's where everything happens. It's one of those kind of shows.
Well, and it's such an epic like story that in the first couple episodes, I completely didn't understand anything.
Well, and that was my problem with it initially is there's no context given for a lot of what's going on in that show.
Right, exactly.
And I've told some people about that and their kind of response is, well, you know, okay, like, so what? Like, and I get that they explain it later in the show, but the lack of context is a little jarring.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, it makes it difficult to stay in touch. But I feel like, you know, the fans are diehard, so I guess, you know, I should give it another shot and like sit through it.
And there are some good performances. There are some good characters and actors who are involved in the show. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen like individual scenes that I thought were incredible. So I mean, I'm sure if I could just get to those scenes, I would enjoy this. Well, So I'm excited.
Yeah. I would definitely check it out. It's pretty good. Yeah, I haven't been, like I said, I've been enjoying it way more than when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I started watching it when it first aired. So.
Ooh.
Yeah, whenever that was.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, I don't even remember when the first episode of that show was. Like 2009.
Wow,
it's been on for like 6 years. This is its 6th year, so yeah, man, it's been on for quite a while too. On top of everything else, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
No, there's still strong fandom.
Yeah, and the books, the whole thing with the books not being out, and whatever.
That's right.
Let's talk about Death of a President. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about.
Awesome.
Death of a President came out in 2006, directed by Gabriel Range. The IMDb synopsis of the film is: years after the assassination of President George W. Bush in Chicago, an investigative documentary examines that as yet unsolved crime.
I remember the president said something to me like, "Is there a problem?" I remember saying, "No, sir, there's no problem."
We weren't just rounding up people. We had probable cause.
That was a major security breach. This time, it seemed to me there was real hate.
He looked at me and he stepped out.
We're just getting reports of a shooting incident. It's not clear if the president himself has been hit, but apparently there are casualties.
Neither one of us has seen this movie.
No.
Sean, what did you think of it, approaching it for the first time?
Well, I thought it was really before I'd seen it, you told me that it was kind of similar to CSA.
Very similar to CSA.
Yeah, the Confederate States of America, and I had that kind of mindset going into it. I didn't know. Still, it's funny because I didn't even know that it was about George W. Bush until I pressed play, and I didn't know what was going on. And it's incredible how I feel like I could be watching TV and it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so scary to me how it almost predicted where we are right now. And in a lot of ways, this has been around. It's been around for a long time.
It's been out for 10 years now.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, like the issue itself has been around for a long time, and it's something that this covers a political era where I kind of was ignorant of everything. I was a kid, and so I only have the.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The memories of 9/11. I only have the memories of like the surrounding, the aftermath,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting because it's a movie where like a lot of the movies we watched this month, which I love about it, is that I have to look up and do research and see, where the facts, stray from are different from the fiction in this movie. And I think that everyone should be watching this movie right now during this election because it's striking up the same sort of emotions that I get when I watch the debates.
It's a really interesting movie. It's a really well-made movie. I think the first half of the film is really well made. I don't know how I feel about the second half. I think the second half kind of falls off a little bit.
Yeah.
It is definitely one of the more interesting films we've watched this month.
I think the timing specifically.
Yeah, no, the timing of everything on top of everything else, I think is really it wasn't intentional, but I wouldn't say it was by accident, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally.
It's a rough movie on top of everything else because, like I said, the first half of the movie is so well done. I was watching it with my fiance, and she was like, "What are we watching?" And I didn't tell her it was a mockumentary until like we were obviously we're the part where you can't really say like, well, this happened.
Yeah, exactly.
The part where George Bush bites the dust.
Yeah.
Spoilers, obviously, from the title of the film.
Right. Exactly.
But the first half of the film is so well done that it really does feel like just one of those History Channel documentaries that they would have a couple years after something like this happened, a huge event like this would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's also really successful is the fact that they mix actual footage with filmed footage, which kind of, similar to CSA, but I think CSA does it better, and it's a little different in this film.
Yeah.
The line is towed in this film because you're not sure where where the fact begins and the fiction ends and vice versa.
It was interesting because, for example, when you're talking about this specifically, Becky Ann Baker, she's the woman that plays Eleanor Drake.
Dylan Baker's wife, Dylan Baker of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love this actress. So I love her from Freaks and Geeks, but it's interesting. She has like this face that's very familiar. And I didn't exactly realize where she was from. And it's interesting because they kind of, I remember seeing some of the footage, the actual footage of George W. Bush's speech. And she's kind of like, you can see that they placed her in there. And that's the moment I realized that she was an actress and that I knew who she was. So it's like, like you said, it toes that line. It very much plays with what really happened. And that's how I felt like, that's why I was saying like, it feels like you need to do your research.
Yeah. I honestly felt like those scenes with the people CGI put in.
Yeah.
I thought was pretty goofy.
Oh, of course. When you see it, absolutely.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, like if you're in on kind of what this movie's going for, it looks kind of silly.
Yeah, exactly.
And not just kind of silly, it looks like really silly.
Yeah, like when they're moving in different.
Yeah.
But I know that there are people who are going to miss that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's crazy about. I don't know. I just think that's.
No, and there are going to be people who miss it because, it's not really like super obvious. But if you're looking for it because you know what this film is, then when you see it, you're going to be like, all right, I get it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
This is like, this is someone who's just CGI'd into the film.
But it's just like sort of evidence that this movie really does sort of it kind of weaves in a lot of truth and fiction.
And I think that the actors that they got, you mentioned Becky Ann Baker. I think that the actors that they have do a really good job as well in kind of keeping the lie, as it were, alive, because they're believable and it's not saying that they're not known actors. Right. But it's not like you have Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise as talking heads in this film.
Exactly. I would say that Becky Ann Baker is probably the most recognizable to me, if I can remember. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I think the performances in those, those floating head monologues or, those scenes where they're interviewing them, to have actors pull that off, I mean, that's impressive, because it does feel really real.
Right.
Some of them, those actors, they stood out, and like in the fact that I knew what this was,
Well, and you have an actor like James Urbaniak who does the voices for the Venture Bros. That's what I know him from.
Oh, that's fun.
Playing the, I guess he's like a forensic pathologist.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You have these people that, I know their voices, I don't know their faces. Yeah. But it is really like, that's such a successful thing this film does, is it doesn't force you to be like, okay, I'm having to really suspend my disbelief here because I know who these actors are. And for me, that's a success of a mockumentary. One of the successes it can have is it doesn't rely on the actors to, fool you or convince you of what's going on.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about, the scenes in the film. Some of the scenes I want to touch on, the initial rioting scene in Chicago. Isn't it really surprising how like a lot of this is hitting really close to like what we're seeing with like Donald Trump rallies.
Absolutely.
With people being like really violent. And
I mean, Chicago was the first one to stop one of the Trump rallies.
Well, yeah, like 2 weeks ago now.
That's right. Yeah.
So, not really far from not even really far from the truth.
Exactly. It's way too close.
Yeah. What did you think of kind of the way the film was shot, those protest scenes, and kind of how they were framing all that?
Well, that's probably, like you said, the beginning half of this movie is probably the best part of it because it's so unsettlingly close to what we're seeing in real life. And I think they've also captured like historic moments. I mean, they kind of, the parade in almost makes you think of JFK, and then the speech almost makes you think of MLK. And then, when he's walking the red car, that's just like, you're getting set up for this horrible thing. And this assassination, you feel it coming. And what's scary is I've heard similar things about our elections this year. You know what I mean? Like the thought of, recently, Donald Trump's information getting hacked like that. This is what it kind of stirs up for me. That's what I think of when I see these things. And that's where it's really, I don't know, it's interesting. I don't mean to get totally political, but like, that's like, no matter what.
But I mean, this is a political film that
absolutely
it really is. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have, because one of the conceits in the film is Bush gets assassinated because he had his I forget, what do they call it? It has like a name.
Yeah, it's like it's the
itinerary is like hacked.
Yeah, that's right. His
like outline
schedule. Yeah, the whole schedule of the day.
The whole schedule is hacked, and somehow it ends up in the hands of the person who is the sniper. And when we talk about that, we'll talk about who the sniper ends up being in the film.
Yeah.
But I think that you're right. We in this day and age now, we have anonymous hacking Donald Trump's information as early as last week.
Yeah.
It does really hit close to home, and you're just like, holy shit! Like, this movie is hitting closer than a film that was made 10 years ago should.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. It definitely opens your eyes. It's creepy to draw those parallels.
Well, and then you have a thing like the American Patriot Act 3, which is signed into effect in the film because of the assassination of Bush, because they make it a political thing as opposed to just, trying to focus on finding the people who did it.
Right.
So in the film, President Bush is assassinated while in Chicago, going back to his limousine through like a rope line, and someone from a building snipes him and kills him. And initially they blame it on Zahra Abu Zikri, who's Initially they blame it on a Middle Easterner named Jamal Zikri, who happens to work in the building across the street. And, they blame it on him, and then in doing so, he's sent to jail. But then later in the film, there's some question about whether or not they just jumped to that conclusion for the sake of the country to try to say, hey, we put somebody behind bars.
Right.
That's never happened before. Wink.
Right.
But in doing so, they make a big deal out of this thing called the American Patriot Act 3, which at the end of the film, it granted investigators unprecedented powers of detention, surveillance, and further expanded the powers of the executive branch. So it essentially made the president much more powerful and allowed people to be detained for no reason. Again, not anything that happens in real life, obviously.
Right.
So I think that Gabriel Range and Simon Finch, who wrote the film, did a really good job of bait and switching the audience with the who is the killer thing, because this is playing as like a documentary about the events. So you have, the Secret Service agents who were there that couldn't protect the president. And then you have, Becky Ann Baker's character. She's like a special consultant to the president. So you have all these people that are on screen talking, and then you have people that were arrested right afterwards who, were arrested maybe because they're Muslim or because they look suspicious. And so they're interviewed too. I think they do a really good job of bait and switching the audience and then making a point as to why they did it. And they didn't just do it because they wanted it to be entertaining.
No, absolutely. I agree. I thought that little twist was a really specific point that they made. And I thought it was really effective to the overall sort of themes and sort of, I thought it was really interesting that it was.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
I didn't see it coming, to be honest.
So one of the characters that they interview in the film is Casey Claiborne, who is the son of a military man, and he's in the military himself, and his whole family has gone into the military. And one of the sons dies, and then it's suspected after the father commits suicide that maybe this father killed the president to get back at, the president and the country for their son dying. And then, it calls into question kind of, whether or not they were justified in putting Zikri away in prison. And, there's this really great, credit scene at the end, along with talking about the Patriot Act 3, where it says, he's still in prison and, he's not going to get
on death row.
Yeah, he's on death row, even though they more or less have figured out who the person is who killed the president.
Right, because he was somewhat related to some kind of terrorist-esque.
Yeah,
landing.
He was in Pakistan and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, is essentially.
Right, exactly.
I like that this film is so relevant, but it is also kind of scary that the film is so relevant.
Yeah, that's how I feel about this movie.
Because, the xenophobia that certain political candidates are espousing and have been espousing in the last 8 months, and I won't name names because, I don't even have to.
No.
It's pretty scary because in this film they touch upon the xenophobia and, we're going to lock up this terrorist, this Muslim, because, hey, he probably did it. So, and, he was incidentally in the wrong place at the wrong time. It hits really close to home in this film. It really does. And it's, watching the film, it made me pretty uncomfortable because I was like, oh shit, this isn't just like a movie about killing the president. And that was one of the things, that was some of the criticism that was leveled against this movie was people thought it was just like a liberal wet dream about people wanting to see the president die, which I completely understand people, feeling that way and that being kind of their reaction to the film because, if you do talk about the president being assassinated, that is a pretty taboo topic. I mean, it's a very taboo topic.
Absolutely.
So I completely understand this aversion and, certain politicians were, very upset about this film. Hillary Clinton was very vocal about her displeasure with this film.
Yeah. Well, it's especially complicated when it was before. I mean, the man was still alive. He was still the president.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a huge deal. And but unfortunately, I think what they're arguing has nothing to do with what the movie's about.
No, the actual assassination scene in this film is minor compared to what this film is talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really not important in the grand scope of the film's message either.
Not at all, because you know what it reminded me of? Because there was a scene even with the rioting, where I think someone announced that, he had gotten shot and they all celebrated. It was really just dark. But it reminded me of, I was in college when Osama bin Laden was killed. And I remember people parading in the streets and feeling so mixed about that. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you weren't the only one who was mixed about that.
Yeah, no, it was just so. I mean, there are people who are going to understand that.
I took a lot of flack for saying that we shouldn't be
Oh no, I'm with you, man. Because to me it was disturbing that we could celebrate death like that, or you know what I mean? Like it was just weird to me. It was really unsettling to see people parading out in streets like that.
Well, and you know, we're acting no better than the people in the Middle East who do the exact same thing.
Right.
Which is the thing that always like kind of, you know, not cracked me up, but at the same time, like it kind of made me be like, are you guys serious? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You're just kind of like what are you doing?
Right. I mean, it's letting anger kind of blind what's really happening. What's really happening is that someone is being assassinated, and that's what the movie's about. It's not, and I think that it was smart to do that because, I mean, that taboo surrounding it should be examined. You know what I mean? We should look at that. We should face that fear in a realistic way. You know what I mean? Because,
and I wish that they had talked more about that in the film.
Yeah, I do too. They don't really talk about it.
No, it really is just one scene, but I mean, it does stand out because I don't honestly know that if the president was assassinated by a, you know, and in this film it's domestic terrorism, I guess is the best way.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, he's a American citizen, you know, I don't think people would be cheering. I honestly don't think that, you know.
Yeah, I don't either. I hope so.
I would like to believe people wouldn't be cheering about the death of a president.
Right.
But
although I've been hearing some dark shit this year, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, yeah, this year is such a strange political
event.
Yeah, it's such a strange political phenomenon that we're seeing.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. That's true.
And, you know, I think that the anger in this film that people see towards, you know, the president being assassinated in this film and, oh, he's dead, and, you know, people cheering in the streets and kill him, it's, you know, war crimes, you know, I completely understand the people being upset because, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of George Bush either.
Yeah.
But, you know, in this film, when you have these people parading in the streets cheering for his death, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But now in this day and age, we're seeing stuff just like that with, you know, with some of the stuff that Trump is espousing. And you're just like, you know, this really isn't that far from the truth.
No way. I mean, it's just that mob mentality is scary as it itself, you know, let alone, I don't know. It's just, it brings out some scary stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, this film is topical, and on the surface, you wouldn't think it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Not at all.
Because, you know, most people would think that this film is just, you know, an offensive liberal agenda to kind of, you know, hey, look, Bush is dead. And, you know, that's what Hillary Clinton and some other people who were against this film talked about, was like, hey, this film is just, you know, it's just offensive for offensive's sake. I don't honestly find this film that offensive. I don't find this film offensive at all.
No, not at all. I think that it's a taboo subject and therefore it's offensive. I don't know, you know, but it's not. I think
it's handled pretty well too, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty gentle, and if anything, it's very nice. I don't know.
If anything, it's more of a condemnation of our society.
Yeah, because that's the scary part about the movie to me.
Is that because the president died, our country allowed for the president and others to have more power, and the executive branch to, what it sounds like in the film, is run a little wild with power.
Oh yeah.
And that's the kind of the really scary part about this film, is that, you know, a lot of those things, you know, with the NSA, the hacking stuff, you know, a lot of it has come slightly true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's already, we can see it falling into place the same way. It's eerie.
Yeah.
I don't know, but to me, I think one of the other things I love about it is that you see sort of, or, you know, you sort of see like where this fear comes from, that's a part of the people. As it kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it shows the people as sort of like an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows like how I guess polarizing it is. And it's scary. Like what happens when so much fear and anger get built up, and you start pointing fingers, and like the same things are happening I've never seen like such an angry election this year, and that's what scares me, I guess.
No, I haven't either, and that really, a lot of that happens in this film. You have people that are just xenophobic and angry at, in this film, they're angry at the president being assassinated, but in real life, they're angry at, any number of things. And, when people allow anger to make decisions for them, it's pretty, some bad things can happen.
Yeah.
And in this film, you have a person who is, wrongly convicted and then is sent to Guantanamo Bay for God knows how long.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It is upsetting. This film is upsetting, but I think that this is a film that everybody should see because we haven't had a president assassinated.
Right.
The last one who was assassinated wasn't even in, the 20th century. It was in the 19th century.
Yep, that's wow.
So, successfully assassinated. Obviously, certain, some presidents have had, attempts on their life, Ronald Reagan. But yeah, I think that this film, a lot of the stuff that happens in this film is really not shocking, but you're watching it and you're like, man, like one or two things in this country go the wrong way and this country just loses its mind.
Yeah. It's scary to think about because it makes you really reflect on what part you play in society.
Well, and kind of the tenuous and very, the tenuous and very just slippery ice that this country is built on.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is built on. I mean, in this film you see, the president gets assassinated and the country and some of the people, they don't go nuts, but it essentially gives them free rein to break the rules and change the rules as they see fit. And holy cow, if that were to actually happen, it would probably be way worse than even in this film.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
it scares me to think about.
Yeah. And that I think is one of the big successes of the film is that similar to, Confederate States of America, you have a scenario that, it doesn't really strike someone as like unrealistic, but, a president getting assassinated, most of our generation hasn't lived through that.
Yeah.
So in this film, they're kind of having to figure out a way to bring it into the public eye in the way that this, this generation would deal with it. And I think they do a really good job of making it believable, which is something hard, kind of like with Confederate States of America, where they could have really, gone off the fucking rails with the alternate history aspect of the film. They don't really go nuts with it. It's very reined in and realistic. And I think with this film, it's the same way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this film affected me differently in that it just seems so much more immediate. But both, it is. You're totally right. It is. This film is talking about something that, God forbid, could actually happen. Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing really stopping it from happening other than this, the Secret Service and, people who work for the president to protect him. But this isn't like aliens invading.
No way.
This is stuff that's like inherently has a very heavy dose of realism behind it.
Absolutely. These are fears that I'm hearing that I've heard of before. I mean, just these past few weeks, like I've heard.
Well, and then you have something like Donald Trump, where Donald Trump is rushed on stage.
Oh, right. Exactly.
He may or may not be president. I hope he's not. But, if he gets assassinated while he's running for president, I mean, geez.
Right. That's not what I don't want that.
Right. And that's, but that's kind of what this film is talking about is when things get so out of control in this country.
Exactly.
And this country is moving towards that because of what's going on now. And this film doesn't look as kind of insane as it did maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why if people were to watch it now, oh man, like it's because like you said, it's just so, it feels like we're heading there, and we've experienced this and we've discussed this before I even knew about this movie. So that's what, it's disturbing.
And
history repeats itself.
It is very upsetting too, because if that were to happen in this country would be very different.
It would be.
in a very bad way.
Things would change
overnight. I mean, this country would this would not be, I think that people don't want to talk about stuff like this because of the ramifications it would have on this country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, but I mean, this is something that this kind of film and the topics that it talks about are things that people do need to kind of, face and understand and kind of accept that these are the kinds of things that happen all over the world. We just happen to have a country where that doesn't happen, thankfully.
Right, exactly.
We should be very thankful that we live in a country where I off the top of my head, I can't remember how many presidents have been assassinated, but the ones that everybody always remembers is Lincoln, obviously.
Yeah.
So, we should be thankful that we live in a country where presidents aren't getting assassinated left and right.
Right.
So
it's so true.
Yeah. In regards to comparing it to Confederate States of America, the only other film this month that's really similar to this mockumentary, how do you think this one fares against Confederate States of America?
You mean as far as like Rotten Tomatoes?
No, I'm talking about just like your feelings on the film.
I think I have a much more. I think I'm fonder of CSA. I think what it does is it's a very artistic in general and timeless sort of movie. It sort of takes what this movie does and expands on a sort of a generation or a world instead of just one incident. And I think that this movie it feels raw and gritty, and I think it's supposed to feel that way. It's supposed to feel, it came out, like I said, when President Bush was still in office, and it's supposed to feel disturbingly close to us. And I think that it's successful in doing that. That being said, I enjoy, if I were to sit down and watch another movie right now, I would much prefer to watch CSA because it doesn't have, because this movie doesn't have that comedic relief. It's straight up watching the news on every single bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, this film has no comedic relief at all.
Right.
Which I think really is not something this film needed.
No. I think it did what it's supposed to do, man. It's supposed to be disturbing and shake you up.
And controversial. This film is controversial. I understand the controversy surrounding this film.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The man was alive. He was still working. You know what I mean? I understand that. But I think it's about more than that. And I think that it makes a very bold statement. And I think that it's worth listening to. I don't know. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. Sean, skip it or watch it in best performance.
I think definitely watch it, and watch it this year before you vote.
Sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Pay attention to how your emotions, are similar to when when you're watching the news and when you're watching these debates, and just, it's just something to keep in mind, These are fears that people are experiencing. These are fears that I have, so it's definitely worth a watch, I think. And it's definitely not boring. So, I think it's hard to say best performance. I think I have two favorites. And I think first is Hind Ayub, who plays Zara Zikri, Jamal Zikri's wife. And I love the way they kind of manipulated her interviews in the beginning and sort of to throw us off. But she was great. I just loved watching her.
That initial manipulation at the beginning, I think, is really well done.
Yeah, it's so clever because when she said it, I was like, bam! It was like it hit me good. That was a good twist. I also really loved Nico Parham, who played Casey Claiborne, the son of the actual sniper. And I thought they were incredible performances because they really, really made me believe this story. They really help you buy into this. And I think that actors, especially actors in these kind of roles where they're, talking heads, it's so hard to be convincing. And I think that it's creepy. They add to that, spookiness of it being so realistic.
Yeah, he did a really good job in the film. These kinds of films, as much as they're not about the performances, they're more about kind of what the film is talking about.
Truly.
This film's performances are really well done.
Yeah, I was crying. I was crying. It was very emotional.
This is like you said, this is kind of a rough movie. So yeah. It's there are some parts of this movie that like you kind of get a chill up your spine because you're like, wow, this is not too far away from
Yeah, it's almost like deja vu, man. It really is.
For me, it's a watch. Like you said, I think that this is a film that you need to watch sooner rather than later, and it does have a ironic, coincidental topicality that is. It's not something that I'm excited about. It's like this is too close to the way it is now. Uh-oh.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and best performance.
I took the really good one. Sorry.
I really like Brian Boland as the lead Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
Who, he ends up kind of being, the, survivor who, blames himself for the president's death.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a kind of character that we've seen a million times before.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he does a really good job of not overdoing it in a film that he could have overdone it.
Absolutely.
So I think he did a really good job. I really enjoyed his performance. What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I bet. Ooh, that's tough. I see this is such a politically empowered movie that I don't think some people will see past that. So I want to say it's got to be 60. I don't know. I would say 70%.
37%.
Ooh, dang, scathing.
In this unconvincing fictional documentary, the tense 30 minutes that lead into the title event is outweighed by the boring melodramatic hour preceding it.
Well,
I don't know about that. I mean, I do think that there's a slight disconnect with the tone in the first and second half of the film.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't think it's I don't think it's such a stark disconnect that you have to completely disregard the rest of the film.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
The audience score is a little higher at 58%, but
yeah, I
mean, overall, it doesn't sound like people enjoyed this film, which bums me out.
It does, because I feel like I said, that especially if you watch it today, you know what I mean? I don't know if I would feel different in 2006, but if you watch this movie today, you can't help but feel the connections. You know what I mean? Just how close it is to being true.
Right? Yeah. No, I agree. I wish I had seen this film earlier, because I'm curious how it would have held up in a world that isn't so close as it is now.
We're on the brink, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, before I talk about this Thursday's Kulturecast, Sean, are you still horny and alone?
Yeah, man, because it's still not out. I'm itching here. Lonely and Horny comes out in a couple weeks, April 8th, I think, on Vimeo. So check that out. It's with Jake and Amir from College Humor. I have to plug that for sure. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Shonifer on Twitter, and on Facebook, I'm Sean Liang.
And if you like what you're listening to now, go over to cultureshock.com/Kulturecast, and you can check out all of our episodes. We're also on iTunes, so subscribe to us and give us a good review. Hopefully allow other people who like movie podcasts to check us out. And we're also on Stitcher Radio. Big thanks to Wavoka, who provides the intro outro music for our podcast. And this Thursday, we're going to be talking about I'm Still Here, the Joaquin Phoenix film about when he was a rapper for a year.
Oh,
and how he fooled so many people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Into him retiring and becoming a rapper.
Yeah, my music teacher believed it.
I've never seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm excited for you to see it.
So yeah, make sure to check that one out.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.